welcome back for another fun Power Hour podcast where I'm your host, Alden Antonucci. And welcome to Extreme Power Hour Podcast, Rusty. This is the first time I've had you on here.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me on.
Man, this is, I've been hearing so much about education. And I've got kids of my own. I've got 4. And they're obviously growing up in the public school system.
Yeah.
And it has been, I think there is a pre-COVID and a post-COVID.
Oh, for sure.
And I know you've been a principal. You've been basically in academia your whole life.
Yeah.
From college all the way up to what you're doing now. And maybe you can go into little details on what you're doing now.
Yeah, sure. Before that, I was a high school math teacher for 10 years. And then the last 3 of those years, I was also a high school, middle school principal. I was a tech director of a school here in Montana. Coach football, track, I was Mr. Montana educator.
Right.
And then, we'll get into it, but it's like going to a restaurant and looking in the kitchen and you see how they butcher the meat and it's all gross and they don't take care of it. And then you're going to go out and try to eat a good burger or steak and you're like, nah.
No.
And that's what happened in education. And I just decided I got to get out. I got to make a change.
Right. And do you see that there was a pre and a post COVID education?
Yeah,
Did
for
things
sure.
change?
I got out of education pre-COVID. Thank God. In fact, I was getting out when the whole school shooting thing was a huge deal. And like in Little Fort Benton, Montana, I was going through like school shooting training and we're talking about administrators potentially carrying, firearms on our hips. And I'm like, what is this? What are we doing here?
Wow.
Why?
Right.
So that was it. And then luckily I got out and COVID hit and I was like, oh, thank God. But I have a lot of friends and I still keep my nose in it, I guess, but now that, and what I'm doing too, I started a private school here in Bozeman. I'm in Acton Academy, and it's called Bozeman Innovation Academy.
Yeah,
and I just launched this September. So we're just about to finish our first year. And I launched an elementary studio, for 7 through 11-year-olds. And now this next fall, though, I am opening up enrollment to 4 to 14, and I'm going to be having what we call a Spark Studio, which is for like 4 to 6-year-olds, so like a preschool, if you will, Montessori inspired. Our elementary studio, and then we're also running a middle school studio. And the whole goal is to be, preschool to high school.
Right.
And so, but now that I am in this realm and private business now and education,
there's a reason why you're doing that.
Oh, absolutely.
If the system wasn't broken, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing.
No, I loved it. When you're in a system, it's kind of like the fishbowl thing, right? Or a snow globe. You just think that's your world and that's how everything is. But then when you start getting a glimpse on how, whoa, wait a minute, what we're doing here isn't really all that good. And you start seeing the cracks and all the things. And then you're like, oh man, we got a problem here. Right. And as a teacher, that's why I went to be a principal because, I was doing a good job in my classroom. Kids loved me, really. I mean, because my first year, I realized section 1, section 2, 1, 2, section 1, 3, follow, kids, here are the worksheets, here's the test. My kids were just like, they're bored. I could see the gloss over their, from the first year. So I got my master's in math ed real quick, and it opened my mind to teaching differently. And what I started to do was, I call it a math story. I was like, man, I just got to come up with a math story that my kids can follow. You know what I mean? It makes sense. And when I did that, the connections, it was so much fun for me because I'm kind of a brainy guy. I'm a creative guy,
Nice.
So making lessons, my kids took to it big time. But I heard about these pockets of excellence, and that was something that stuck out to me because I felt like, I taught freshmen who I always said like 92% of them hated math, and they're already 14 years old coming to see me, and they've got this whole paradigm about how math sucks. They're not good at it. But by the end of the year, I had so many kids just thank me that they felt successful and they actually were liking math again. I was like, oh, wow. But then you see the other teachers that they're going to go to and you're like, oh, sorry, sorry, buddy, had a good year, but good luck next year because you're going right back to the old schools, and hating it and your soul's getting sucked out. But that was a huge eye opener to me. And so I was like, I want to make a bigger difference. Let's be a principal of a school, So I followed that, became one, did a great job, I felt. Try to make a lot of change because we need a lot of change, and nobody likes change. And education, I feel, is one of the sectors where it might be the hardest to change almost.
Right.
You know.
Right.
you
From the
know.
teachers or education level or both? They just like the curriculum and just kind of burn. Like
Yeah. Well, that's what I noticed is a lot of teachers, they're not professionals in their subject. Let's get that straight. Some are. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
There are some people, especially like science teachers, you know, they have fun, but still, I know a lot of teachers that stick to that curriculum where they've been doing the same science experiments for the last 25 years. And,
Right.
you know, it's just easy for them. So it just becomes, you know, we got great teachers. I call them the heroes of our education because we do have people really trying to make a difference, but the system's too big. It's too antiquated. It's just, it's not gonna, you can't make a change. I don't feel there has to be something very severe to happen to our education system as a whole to make a change. So the teachers, you know, they're heroes, they're trying, but I was a hero. And then you just realize like, man, my efforts are, you know, I'm not getting to do what I want to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I feel like that's almost like a business to a certain extent, right? Businesses that are flexible, they grow, they prosper.
Yeah.
The businesses that stay consistent, like you were saying, 25 years doing the same experiment, what's going to eventually happen to that business, right? And that teacher, not to say that's a bad teacher by any means, but at the same time, you've got to have an education that's constantly moving. It's a moving target.
Totally.
Right? Every year, you got new textbooks, but why are they printing the same stuff and just changing the cover?
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, they're just giving it a different name, like Common Core. Like, I don't even know. Like, my kids are like, oh, we're doing Common Core. I'm like, what does that even mean?
Yeah, the new math, they call it.
Yeah, the new math.
Yeah,
I'm like, well, they dumbed it down and said, well, that's close enough math. And I'm like, wait a second, you know, it's crazy to think about stuff like that. But,
the Common Core did some good stuff. I felt as an algebra teacher, a lot of kids have problems with algebra. Not to make this a math conversation, but a lot of kids have problems with algebraic thinking. You know, I always hear like, oh, when did they put the numbers and the letters together? You know, and it's like, oof, we got a challenge here.
Algebra's great. I love it.
But the Common Core, I feel like in the efforts that they were making, I just don't think it was rolled out well. I don't think teachers weren't taught well on how to teach whoever came up with the Common Core idea, right? But I know that I could look at it and say, okay, I feel like they're really trying to get algebraic thinking going at a younger age. That's how I took it.
Okay.
But the way it was rolled out and the way it was actually practiced and the way it was taken by the parents and the public was just not a good thing at all.
Right. Yeah. 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 And that's, you know, crazy to hear that, you know, things shift that fast. And the books can change, but the teacher almost doesn't. Or you could have a better teacher like yourself, and you're still teaching the same book.
Well,
like, oh
here's why. I mean, there's lots of reasons why, but one of the main ones is standardized testing. I mean, when it was No Child Left Behind with George Bush Jr., whoever that was, that made that up, it was like, what are we doing? You know, they were threatening schools that if we didn't make the correct marks or the grades, if we will, as a school, then we're going to, the government would potentially come in and even like teach us how to run our school better, which is just going to make people mad, but never happened. And I think what it does though, is it makes people, it's that pressure, right? Because as administrators feel that pressure from above saying, hey, we got to hit these test marks and we got to show this much proficiency and all that. Well, teachers, we're trying, but then it becomes standardized. So then let's all teach the same thing, you know, and because they're going to take the same test. And when you start doing the same thing to a mass, that's a problem.
Right. Yeah. There's only one thing on the menu.
Yeah.
And people get bored with one thing on the menu.
And teachers like, hey, I'm sorry, but I got to cover this, or I got to, we got to take this test and I don't want to look bad. You know what I mean? Right. So it's not the individual anymore. It's the whole, it's the group.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that there's, is it rip it all down and start over? Or is it, a little tweak here, a little tweak there?
If you're going to change the public system, I think you got to rip it all down and just start something over. Because fundamentally, it's flawed.
Is there a system that you think is better out there?
Yeah, the Acton Academy that I took on. I didn't know about Acton until I found it, right? It's true about anything. But once I found Acton, I was like, oh my God, I found some people who are making the best education model that I could think of. Right. And because it's truly focused on every single kid, really, and independent learning. we say we want kids to learn independently or at their own pace, but it's not happening,
Right.
And why I say the public ed is fundamentally flawed is because we still have this belief that an adult is the gateway of all knowledge that's going to get passed to their kids. So if the teacher didn't teach me that, then I don't need to know it, right? That's kind of the flaw that students walk around with. And it's a cop-out, students put on the teachers put on the students, and there's just,
right.
But it's 2024, and the internet and YouTube and, information the internet blew up education is really what happened, Because if you think pre-internet, where are you going to get your information?
Are you saying maybe before 96, somewhere in that realm, 94?
In the 80s even.
Even in the 80s?
I would think, I don't know, whenever it happened where before the internet, it was encyclopedias, it was books, and you needed that's where teachers had a lot more value, Right. But now, you can learn any subject online from any personality that you like, you can learn from somebody.
Right.
You can learn anything, not just math, I watch YouTube on how to fix things all the time. You know what I mean? So I'm in this mentality where I don't need somebody else to tell me what, I can figure things out. Right. And I feel like we're all like that now. So why are we going to school and I have to go sit with this math teacher who I maybe don't like or, and I have to do the same thing all these other kids are doing and all that. So that's why I say the internet, I think, blew up education.
I totally think so. We could even do that pre-COVID, post-COVID.
Yeah.
Because during COVID, it pushed everyone to Zoom.
Yep.
It pushed everyone to the internet even more.
Yep.
Netflix went through the roof. But not only did Netflix, DIY went through the roof.
Yeah.
Home Depot, Lowe's, all those DIY,
true,
superstores just went through the roof because people are like, today I'm going to learn how to paint because I'm actually getting paid to stay at home. So I might as well paint my new closet or whatever it might be. So if you could kind of, I guess for the audience, how do you see the public system summarized and how do you see the system that you're obviously introducing into our area and how they're different and how one's better than the other?
Yeah, sure. So in a nutshell, I look at the public system as...
Is it a babysitter?
Yeah, I guess. It's like this rite of passage, that you just got to suffer through it. You know what I mean? Don't complain. I'm sorry that your buddy, your kids are jerks in the class or, and there's no accountability. It feels like, and all this stuff, especially with all this new, and I don't want to get into the whole LGBTQ stuff and all that getting pushed into schools. It's just not a good system. It's not a healthy, positive system. I hear a lot of teachers complaining about what they have to cover now and what they have to do now. And it's the focus when you talk to somebody, you can tell what someone's thinking by the way they talk, right? And so if you talk to most teachers around here, it's negative and it's about what they have to do and it sucks, they're overworked and all
and
this stuff.
And their body language is like, I'm exhausted.
A quick story. I went and borrowed some robotics equipment from a teacher friend of mine in a local school here. And when I went in there, you just feel the sterileness of the building in the first place, right? And every door says you have to have a pass, so you can't be in the hall and all this stuff. And so, anyways, I'm in my friend's classroom, and she's getting all this robotic stuff down from the top, and we're just talking about my school and what I got going on. I'm just bragging about it, because I just love my model that I found. And she goes, well, when you get to high school, let me know, because by that time I might burn this place down.
Oh, geez.
I'm like, whew. But I'm just sitting there like, we're in the middle of her kids working in the classroom, and she's just ranting and raving and all this stuff. And I'm just looking around like, you have no clue what you're doing right now, do you? That's how it is, There's just, I think there is it's accepted that you don't have to learn much. You know what I mean? Just get through it. Just get through it.
Right. And just one more year, 2 more years, just stick it out and then you'll be fine.
Or maybe your parents are cool with you getting a GED. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then, so my model though, what is completely different about it is, we took the power. So the public school's power is in the adults, right?
Got it.
It's all the adults. It's top down power. And the kids just have to do what we tell them to do. You know what I mean? So in an Acton Academy model, we shift that power and we give it to the kids. And so we're not teachers in an Acton Academy. We're guides is what we're considered. And I love that word. And, when I first was learning about the Acton model, I was kind of like, guys, that sounds weird to me, But the more I started really thinking about what words mean and the meaning behind them, we are guides. I mean, how do you really teach somebody something, you know?
Right.
Just because I'm talking to you, you know, am I teaching you? You know, life experience is what teaches, you know.
Right.
So we're in an Acton Academy, at Bozeman Innovation Academy, we power the kids. They make governing decisions in our school. They truly work independently on their core skills, you know, like it's like a homeschool model in their core math, reading, writing.
Right.
Nothing special in that regard. We have a badge plan, so they know what they need to do, and they have to complete the badge plan, like Boy Scouts, if you will, like show that they can do something,
Right.
have evidence that they learn through, by the way, mastery level software. Whereas in school, you know, as long as you were nice and the teacher didn't hate you, you could get B's or C's and not really learn much, but get moved on to the next class, right?
Right.
Whereas now we have mastery level software. So my kids already know, you know, they just have to get 100% on those online tests and little practices and quizzes. And so they don't get to just, you know, skate by, I guess. They actually have to learn. But watching kids work together and know that as an adult, we like to try to jump in and fix problems for people. I do, but now I can't. Like the whole thing is don't fix a kid's problem. Let them figure it out, you know? So it's a whole system where you let kids figure out how to interact together, you know, how to be a community, how to be a civilization together, you know?
Right. I almost heard the word dependency on there. If our current public school system is almost a dependency problem, it's almost built like the military, top down, right?
Yeah.
Power and authority, shut up, go to class, do your thing, bell rings, get there, boom, go to work. You know, and that model was, you know, designed back in the early 1900s.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And how many cars are we still driving from the 1900s?
Yeah.
Right? The only thing we really have from the 1900s still in existence is our currency, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, the public school system. Other than that, there's nothing else from the 1900s
Is that crazy?
Still really moving. Yeah.
Another fun fact, schools are the only thing that human beings are the only people in nature. You don't look at other animal groups that group their young ones in the same grade, same age. You know what I mean? And I think that too is a fault of schools. Why are we keeping kids at the same age?
Never thought of that.
Whereas like in our school too, we're a multi-age classroom, right? So my elementary is 7 through 11. You know, my daughter's there. She's 5. I brought her in because she's my daughter, and I just wanted to see how she's doing. She's doing great. But the multi-age has been so cool to watch, you know?
Right.
Because just because you're older doesn't make you more mature. You know what I mean?
See, I grew up in an island off the coast of Maine.
Oh.
And so I had 6 people in my 6th grade class.
Oh, dang.
Right. And so growing up there, I think we had 4 before that. So it was big when it was 6 people.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of multi-classrooms where we're with the older kids and stuff like that. I'm with my brothers and my sisters. And, and, you know, at the end of the day, you evolved. Even though I was young, I had to evolve up to those older kids. And those older kids, because they were with me, doesn't mean they evolved down to my level. No. But they evolved up to the teacher's level.
Right.
And so they looked up to the teacher, not down to the teacher. Like it feels like in society today, they look down to their teacher, and the teacher can't actually do anything, even though they might have that power and authority. They almost can't even raise their hand at a kid, or
they can kick you out of class.
They can kick you out of class.
And you're going to go talk to the principal.
Yeah. And then you're back, and then you get your C in class, right?
But you know what? Moving. Just so you know, when I was principal, I had boys. I know they're rowdy or whatever, but some of those teachers, it's like I wouldn't want them as a teacher. You know what I mean? And they're getting the boys getting sent to my office, and it's like, oh, you know, Mrs. So and so sent me here again, and I'm like, you know, you just know. And what, I have to support the teacher because that's how we do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's a tough spot to be in when you really are trying to make a change, even as a principal. Yeah. Because then your teachers and everybody are looking at you like you don't have discipline and you're not really controlling the school.
Yeah. And so for those future parents that are out there that are kind of looking at your schooling model, how would you better advise them to make that decision? What's that jump of faith to go from public to yours? Because obviously you got a better product.
Sure. That's a tough jump. You know, I think because there's convenient factors of public ed, right? A bus will literally come to your house and pick your kid up for you and drop it off for you. It's just easy, you know. The school might be in your neighborhood and your kids can just walk there. You know, there's a parent convenience, I think, that can happen. That's part of it.
Which is a babysitting model, which obviously we know that doesn't work.
Right.
You get what you pay for.
And it's free.
Right. It's free.
Because when you look at a private option, like for me, I gotta be on tuition. I don't have any I don't have any funds or any investors right now, so right now we just fund it off of tuition, and then I make up the rest,
Right.
And so that public ed's free. And I think a lot of people too talk about like mindset. I feel like a lot of people have a mindset today. It's just hard to make money and make a living, and let alone pay $1,000 a month,
right.
For my kid to get an education where I don't even know if they're going to get something better than, because they don't know.
Right.
So what was your question though?
Well, basically that difference in that jumping from
public
education into your new system.
What I would say is, we all can look at our kids' eyes, right? And we all can see the genius in our kid. We can see that magic in them. And as a parent, you want the best for your kid.
Right.
So really, why are we putting them in when there's other options? Why are we putting them in a system where it's just negative, they're getting throttled, and we're just teaching them to just suck it up and get through? Versus looking at your kids and realizing that there is a model that will nurture that genius, that doesn't throttle kids. We don't have to throttle, We don't have to like say, hey, kids, sorry, you can't go there yet because I'm not comfortable with that as an adult. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the beauty of it is we just empower kids and we tell them, the goal here is we're setting up an environment that nurtures your genius, you're going to find out yourself and how you think about things, And at a young age, let's start actually thinking about yourself as a person,
Right.
You have a power as a person. Let's use that, even as a young kid, and little kids know it until they get that, wash out of their head or whatever.
Right.
So that's the coolest thing is, the kids there, it's totally let them fail, because failure is the best, teacher, let them come in, figure stuff out. You know how many times my kids, they see things that aren't going good in the studio and then they make rules, right? Which is part of the system. And so the funny thing about making rules is sometimes you make a rule because you just see somebody doing something you don't like.
Right.
But kids and most people don't really look at themselves and they're doing the same thing,
Right.
So it's super cool in that the kids have a say, they have a purpose, they have a voice, they mean something at our school. And they get to make rules and we follow the rules. And then all of a sudden when you find out like, oh man, something's kind of weird here, we need to tweak it. That's the beauty of our model. It's like, okay, let's tweak.
Right.
Okay, new set of rules. Let's play the game.
Right.
All right. And we check in all the time. How's it going?
Yeah.
How's it going? We have reflection time. Most powerful things, there's lots of stuff, but like at the end of the day, we have a reflection period. How'd the day go? And that's a good time. We do character call outs. What did you learn?
Right.
What can we do better for tomorrow?
Right.
And then you take those conversations the next day, we launch the day with a Socratic discussion, get the kids thinking and answering questions. And I direct that typically off of if we had an issue the previous day, we can come back the next day. Everybody's kind of fresh and we hammer out some stuff, and we come up with an agreement and we try some new rules. And that's just the beauty of it,
Right.
Watching kids actually talk to each other, disagree with each other and not get upset.
Right. So it's more real life. You're bringing the
real
life.
life. Yeah.
Right. Instead of this.
How you get in real life in a public ed? The only time you're out of your seat is between classrooms or going to lunch or PE, right?
Right.
Other than that, what's real life there?
Right. I feel like it's either you're honored or you're going to prison.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the public school system has been, at least conspiracy-wise, shrouded by the prison system.
The buildings they're designed from the same design as prisons.
Right.
Your whole job is to take a group of people and move them from one place to another with the least amount of potential for any kind of issue.
Herd mentality.
Herd mentality.
Right.
Walk on the right side.
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone on the left side. And then you got the one guy walking on the left, and now all the ones that are walking on the right are getting mad at that guy because he's an out-of-the-box thinker such as yourself.
Right.
Right.
You tell me I'm going to walk on the right? I'm going to go on the left.
You're like, hey, but over here, I'm on a hill. I can see you guys are walking off a cliff, or you're walking into no man's land. I'm good over here.
You're right.
I'm good.
Yeah.
So,
even if I get yelled at, that's the fun part. At least it makes my day a little exciting.
That's right. That's right. And so I think, that would be amazing if that, the public system transitioned, it does come down to
you don't need the teachers,
right?
Not all of them,
right?
You need adults. Adults have a place in a kid's education.
Right.
They do, but not like it is.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what I see is you're teaching the students how to think and not be boxed in.
Totally.
Where the public system is more of a box-in culture. You sit down. Oh, you're thinking 8th grade level. We're here in 7th grade.
Right.
Right. You could be teaching.
Sorry, I don't have the materials for you to like go there yet.
Right.
So,
right.
Sorry.
Either that, or they might be asking a question that teacher's just not qualified, and their answer would just be like, "Hey, we're not going there."
Yeah.
Instead of saying, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to get somebody that does know." Maybe
Right.
a Zoom conference, maybe going to a university.
Or what's wrong with stopping the lesson and have everybody figure it out?
There you go. I like that one.
But it throws you off your pace.
Right. Right. Well, I really appreciate you coming down here and
yeah.
letting us know more about this, the academy and everything that you've got going on. And I've heard some amazing things about it. So, I mean, kudos for sure. And
thank you.
Is there any last thoughts you might have for the audience or anyone that's kind of in doubt?
I don't know. Just my thought is this: look at your kids and think to yourself, what would they become if they were actually in a system for their 13 years or however old they are till graduation, where they could actually, I don't want to use the word condition, that's not the word, but where they're getting nurtured and inspired to find themselves.
Right.
Because, you think about education, the Greek root in education is eduko, which means to inspire from within, right? And that's really what it is. We should be inspiring the thoughts from the kids, not just tell them things and have them write it down.
Right.
And so that's what we're doing. I'm so excited to see our kids when they graduate. The Acton Academy, I'm part of the Acton Academy network, is over 300 Actons in over 30 different countries around the world. And we're all this big affiliate network. So I hear lots of stories, even though I just started. You hear the stories from people that have watched the elementary kids struggling and figuring out how to be a group together to high school when they're, in high school in the Acton model, they work on what's called the NGA, the next great adventure. So they have to have a plan to do something and follow through with it.
Right.
And so these other Acton owners are just talking about how, and I can't wait to see the young kids, how they were, to these high schoolers who are crushing life.
Wow.
Not crushing life like they're going to Yale and all that, which some are, right? But crushing life because they're confident people who know what they want to do.
Right.
And my only other thing I want to say about public ed, and really one of the things that got me out of it, was when any school I was at, and I knew it was national too and whatever, but you could grab any junior, senior in the hallway and just be like, hey man, what you going to do after school?
I don't know.
Or they're going to say, I'm going to go to college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
okay.
then figure out what I'm going to do.
What are you going to do there? Yeah. I don't know.
Social studies.
It's like, God, guys, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? For real, most of them, some kids come from good families and some have a good direction, right? Don't get me wrong, but majority no.
Right. Well, I appreciate you coming down.
Yeah, you bet.
And I look forward to talking to you again. And I want to get more into that interest level of what makes you you. Okay.
Yeah.
So you mind coming back down for
I'd
another
love to
one?
come back down for another one.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this is Alden Antonucci and Rusty from Extreme Power Hour Podcast. Stay tuned for the next.